Hello, everyone. All right. Thanks so much for joining me. Really excited to meet new friends and see old friends. I recognize some in the chat. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. I'll take some questions. I would love some questions, and I see already a few questions here in the chat on YouTube. So feel free to post them there. If after 10 minutes or so I still haven't responded to your question, feel free to repost it. And there's also an opportunity for you guys to join me if you want. You don't have to at all, but if you'd like to join me on the call, you can do that too. If you want to maybe show me something that you're working on, or ask me something that needs visual, maybe show me a position or whatever it is, or just come on the call and spend a few minutes with me live, that's great too. There's a link, pinned comment in the comment section here in the chat section, and you could just click on it, and I'll also already see 3 friends in the green room that are there. You guys are not live, for those of you who are in the back end. So I see Pete, I see Raphael, I see Joe, Rad just joined. But you're not live yet. If you do have a question, feel free to post it in the chat, and if you want to go on screen, just let me know, raise your hand, and I'll have you on. But if not, I'll just get started just a little bit. I saw a few questions here, so I'll just talk a little bit about those questions, and then we'll open it up to the room. I was playing with my pick here as I was waiting, and broke the pick. It's a very thin one, so I'm going to grab another one, and I'll get started. One of the questions that I just got here was from, I cannot remember, I apologize. Oh, Kevin. My friend Kevin, who was on the show a couple months ago. Kevin asked me about stretches and things like that before I started practicing. So I think this is a great opening question to get started, because my practice has changed quite a bit in the last decade or so, after getting kids and getting married and getting, becoming an adult. So my practice is very different. And in particular, after making the transition from being a passionate player, like all of us, to deciding to try to make a living with music, I discovered in a weird way that I spend way less time on my instrument than I used to. So my practice time is very limited. So before, I would do all those stretches, the conventional exercises, all those things, which are really good, but I discovered that they did not give me the biggest bang for my buck because I'm so limited in my time. So now what I do is focusing a lot more on the music and a lot less on the how to do the music, as in all the things that we usually work on, like technique, stretches, and things like that, which have their importance, but because I'm so limited in time, now I just go straight to creating something, and I accidentally work on the other things around. So my practice these days look like this. I'll have my guitar, I'll have a tone that I like, and I'll play a chord. And I love open chords. They just sound so beautiful, I think. And even if I don't know the name of the chord, it really doesn't matter. I'll go by a shape that I enjoy. It doesn't really matter. So this one, for example, I love this chord. For those of you who are curious about this one, I'm only playing 5 strings, so the low E string is not being played at all. And from the 5th string to the 1st, this is open. 5th string is open. Next, I've got the 10th fret here that I'm playing with my ring, and then the pinky just under with the 10th fret also. And my index is playing on the 2nd string, 8th fret, and I'll leave the 1st string open. So this chord, for example. So I'll play a chord that I like, and then I'll start singing a melody in my mind or out loud. Try to imagine something. Just a few notes. And then I'll first picture what I just sang. La da da da. I'll picture a line, an ascending line for ascending notes. Ma da ba da ba. Descending for descending. Da 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 da. So da da ba ba. I'm visualizing that line in my mind first. So that's the starting point, the starting note. da. Next note is lower, la, bum. Next note, da, even lower. So I've got 3 descending notes, la, da, da, and then I've got a last note, la, going back up. All this is in my mind. So for those of you who just joined me, this is how I practice. So I've got that line, da, da, ba, bum. I don't know the scale, the key, or any of that at this point. I just have a chord that I started with, sang, da, 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 and I'm picturing those lines. Now, and this happens in just a few seconds, but if I break it down, I'm basically acting like a detective around this idea. La, da, da, da. I've got to answer all the possible questions that I might get out of that idea. How can I describe this? La, da, da, da. Well, there are 4 pitches. Da, 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 da. Okay, 4 notes, which means that when it comes to play it, I'm going to hear those 4 pitches on the guitar. I've got the line, la. I don't know where the starting note is, but it's here. Da, bum. Okay, so that means that it's probably going to be one of those movements. Da, bum, going a little lower, right? Probably. It might be something like this, depending on the position I'm playing with. Then I can go further. Are there any similar pitches? And all this work is super important. It's going to help in what we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Yes, there are. So I got this. Da, ba, ba, bum. Oh, I really only have 3 pitches, right? Pitch number 1, pitch number 2, pitch number 3, num. And then back to pitch number 2, bum. Okay, all those things in my mind give me an idea of what kind of movements I'm going to have to do to translate that idea. Okay, so at this point, I've got that chord. La, da, ba, bum. I'm going to fish around. If I don't know where to put my fingers, just fish around. Usually, the pitch you sang, if it's the first thing that came, is most likely going to be a pitch that is very close to one of the notes of the chords, because that's what that's the most melodic things the simplest things are usually very close to what we hear first. It's not going to be crazy intervals. So start with the pitches of the chord, which is what I did, and that was a pitch of the chord. La, bum. Okay, I'm going to descend maybe to the next note of the chord. Da, bum. Yeah. La, dum. Da, 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 da. Okay. I've got an idea that I didn't have when I first picked up the guitar. As I was doing this, in this process, I worked on my ear training, I worked on my melodic being, just creative part. La, da, da, da. And I'm working on my technique now, right? Da, ba, ba, ba. Trying to get all the tones as clean and pleasant as I can. All this with bypassing all the stretches and exercises, which do have their place. But my answer to your question, Kevin, is these days that's what I do. So I don't really have any stretches to show you because I'm so limited in time that when I work on something, that's what I do. But it helps me touch on all the aspects of music, even theory, because now if I have this idea that I liked, na, da, 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 I really like that feel. How can I reuse it in other parts? Well, that's where I might look at, try to find how these notes fit that chord. I might try to figure out what that chord is. That's where I look at intervals and things like that. So I'm touching on all the different aspects of music that are important on the guitar without just going like 100% in a micro little area of playing, like maybe working just on the pinky, for example. Like I could do that for hours and I'd get really good at getting my pinky to move, but it's kind of the 80-20 rule, like what is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck if you have limited time. Tangent, again, I went on a tangent. I'm sorry, I said that I would open it up, and I will open it up. But that was my intro to the little topic we're gonna have here. Okay, at this point, hopefully this is not gonna be a mess with all the questions coming in, but if you have questions, let's take them. And for those of you who are in the back end, I see a few, I see some faces that I know. If you do have a question, don't hesitate to let me know and I'll bring you on the stream. Just raise your hand, I can see you. I can see you guys in the back. At least I could see those who have their cameras enabled. So feel free to raise your hand if you have something. If not, that's great too. Feel free to hang out here. And I'll try to keep an eye on everyone. Okay, so I see people from all over the place, which is cool. Got some Canadian friends, some people from the US, Australia. It's great. All right, I think I recognize a question. I'm reading this, and I want to make sure that it is a question. No, it's a comment. Okay, well, let's opening up. What is getting people stuck these days? Is there anything that is you just I feel that I have a lot to say musically, but I feel stuck too. Okay, here's one. Ideal Method is asking, after the minor pentatonic scale, which scale should I study? That's a great question that comes often. The answer is going to depend on a lot of different factors. One of them is what style of music you're playing. So if you can fill in those blanks as I talk ideal method, that's great. What type of music are you playing? Do you really know the pentatonic scale too? Have you used it to its full potential? Because there's so much you can do with it. Typically, what I've found, okay, so if you're into metal, what I've found is that you already have a very good basis for the rest of the scales, knowing the pentatonic scale, because you most likely are talking about the minor pentatonic scale, which is the minor scale. That first position, for example, that scale is made of 5 notes, right? And each of these notes has a different function within the scale. A scale has 7 notes, and the 5 notes of the minor pentatonic scale use some of these 7 notes that you have in a fuller scale. All you need to do, what I would suggest is find a backing track, or a few backing tracks, or even a song from a band you like, and then find the minor pentatonic scale that would fit. You will always find one, and then try to fill in the blanks. So the blanks are if you take notes, that's great, but in the minor pentatonic scale, the 5 types of notes that you have, I'm going to give you numbers here, are 1, 3, 5, and 7. So you're missing the 2nd and the 6th, right? Get 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. So you're missing a 2nd and a 6th. Even without going down the super deep rabbit hole of theory, you know that you're missing the 2nd and the 6th. And I told you that the minor pentatonic scale you're playing is a 1, a 3, it's a flat 3, but it doesn't matter, it's a 3, a 4, 5, and 7. That means that the 2 that you're missing is going to be between the 1 and the 3, right? And you might say, well, if I'm playing an A minor pentatonic, that's frets 5, 8 in the first position. There are 2 frets in between. That's because there are 2 types of 2s. There's flat 2 and natural 2, or sometimes called major 2nd. They have different names. So that's where you train your ear to figure out, okay, which of the 2s is going to work best for this backing track? And just use your ear. One of them is always going to work better. The other one is going to scream, don't play me, it's bad. And then try another backing track or another song you like from the metal songs you enjoy. Do the same thing. Do the same thing for 5 or 6, and then you're going to find out that that's interesting. I always use this kind of a 2, or most of the time. Do the same thing then for the 6th. Figure out which 6th is going to work. That's the scale that you should start with, because that's going to be the scale that is most commonly used in the styles of songs that you listen to. Then it's just a matter of giving it a name, figuring out what name it is, but the name's not going to serve you if you can't hear it anyways, right? So that's what I would say. Now, if you want general guidelines for metal, I know that a lot of players are going to say, oh, Phrygian or Locrian, because those tend to sound more tense, so it sounds... In reality, it's not used that often in metal. Same for Locrian. It's really not. Depending on the metal, but the 3 that I would recommend are going to be Dorian. You're going to hear a lot of that and more hard rock, maybe not the darker metal, but think 80s or 90s hard rock, or even these days. So Dorian, Aeolian, some. But if you're really talking more metal, look up a scale called Phrygian dominant. The thing with that one is that you're not going to find a typical minor pentatonic scale in there. So what I said before, it might not work, but it sounds kind of like this. You're going to find a lot of that particular scale. I hope that helps. That puts you on a path of discovering something, but I think it's more beneficial for you to use a minor pentatonic scale and try to fill in the blanks, because that'll resonate with you a lot more and you'll see the steps to get to there, instead of just memorizing a bunch of scales that you're going to forget if you don't take it that way. Great question. That's really good. And this advice is applicable to any genre of music. Okay, Gavin is asking about the pick that broke, wondering what size, type of pick. So usually I use heavier picks. I just happen to have this super thin pick, which I never use. I just grabbed it, that's why. But usually, and I lost it, I need to ask more, but my favorite pick is from a company called V-Picks, and it's the Mummy pick. It's a little weird because it's pretty thick. It's pretty thick like this, but the end is very thin, but in the middle it's pretty thick, and it's got these stripes on it. That's why it's called the Mummy. It's like it's wrapped around rugged plastic, and it holds really well. I really like that pick, but I found that for a long time I was obsessing on what kind of pick and all that, and that's really going to help me play better. And in the end, I found that whatever pick I use the most is the best pick for the moment. So it's not that important. I think the important thing, and I saw a question earlier on, I can't remember who asked it, but something about guitar setup. That would be the most important thing. A guitar that's set up well is going to really help you play better and progress faster. So for me, I like to have the strings as close to the fret, to the neck as I can without buzzing. I think, and then same for a string gauge. Like I remember when I started a long time ago, I thought, I need to have really heavy gauge strings because that's really going to help my tone. It's going to be a better tone and all that. And it's true to some extent. I think it does change the tone, whether it's better or not, I don't know. But then it's too hard to play for me. And the advantage that you're going to have tone-wise is going to be far outweighed by your playing ability. So having a guitar well set up is going to be probably the most important one. Okay. Gavin is asking about outside scales on the turnaround and asking me to show you. Yes, so I hope there's no real jazz players in here because I'm not. I'm really not. But to me, I like the sound of it. So I don't think in terms of scales and things like that when I'm playing outside because I've never studied it. But what works for me, what has worked, is to just think of so outside playing is basically playing a scale that has no business being played there because it doesn't match, right? So if you have, for example, a major chord, that major chord is made of different intervals. And typically, generally speaking, if you want to be the most pleasant to the most people, the interval you play, they can be any intervals, but if you do decide to play one of the given numbered intervals of a chord, you need to respect that type of interval. Type meaning major or minor. So on a major chord, typically if you were to play a third, you would play a major third because the major chord has a major third. If you play a minor third, those two are going to clash. It sounds kind of like that, right? Which typically is not going to sound good. Now, I know what some are thinking, well, what about the blues? Well, the blues really is playing a minor pentatonic scale over sometimes a major chord, it doesn't match. If I slow things down, if I play my major chord, so that works. I'm in a tune, because then it's really going to be out. But if I really slow down a minor pentatonic scale over a major chord, you will hear the clash. And if you stay on it too long, it's going to be horrible. But because when we play the blues, typically we don't linger on these notes too long, and we do little bends to kind of suggest the correct intervals, it sounds okay. Plus, I think we've heard blues-influenced music for so many years, depending on where you are in the world. But if you're thinking of, well, most of the things in the Western world have that bluesy twist, it's accepted to us. We hear it as a good thing. But I'm pretty sure if we could go back and have Beethoven hear the blues, he would not like it. I might be wrong, but that's my theory. But, okay, back to this. Got a major chord. If I play that minor pentatonic scale over this really slowly, you'll hear, oh, ooh, that really clashes, doesn't it? Other notes don't, but as soon as I hit that minor third, it really clashes. But typically we play it a little faster, and we do little bends to suggest the major third. All that to say, let me get back to what you were asking about playing outside. So playing outside, to me, is just playing notes that don't match. So that means you could play anything, right? When you want to play outside. But if you do, it doesn't necessarily sound good. You're going to sound out of tune and like someone who doesn't know what you're doing. So the key, instead of thinking of scales, is to have at least one element that the listener can relate to. And because the listener cannot relate to the notes you're picking, because you're purposely using wrong notes, the only thing that's left is rhythm. And that's why when you play outside, you have to have a super strong, locked in sense of rhythm. So I'm going to try to demonstrate this over a blues. Hopefully it'll sound okay. I struggled with the audio a little bit. I think my voice is coming through okay in the guitar, but once I put the backing track, things can go a little bit wrong, but I'll try anyways. So let's say that we have just something in, I don't know what the key of this, but we'll find out. Okay, we're in A, typical blues in A. So first of all, I'm not going to play outside right away, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start in. Just to kind of create that connection between me, the player, the backing track, and you, the listener, so that you feel, okay, you feel good about it. I'm going to do that on the turnaround to add a little bit of tension. But pay attention to the rhythm. That's the most important thing. Not the best example, but if I played something with a poor rhythm, horrible. So that's why the rhythm really takes over when I'm playing wrong notes. Like I did there. I'll try to get another turnaround here. I don't know what that was. was, but the rhythm was still locked in. So that's the most important thing. I hope that answered what you were asking. I could, some people really focus on the scales, and I'm sure I could benefit from that, but I haven't really studied that part, because for me, this works. It's a good question. I think it takes a little bit of courage to try it. Just throw yourself in the water and give it a try, and start with simple the rhythm motif in your mind, and then try it with a few notes here and there. What helped me get to that point was also to take my typical minor pentatonic, which would work over this, even though, like we just said, some notes would clash, and then take the same position. So if I'm in the first position, take it one fret below. So all these notes are bad, right? Over the track. And one fret above, all those are bad. And every once in a while, slip in and out. So little exercises where you maybe ascending the pentatonic, and then slide out, same exact position, and back in. Or slide out a half step below, just to kind of get used to slipping in and out of a scale that works. And then doing it over a backing track every once in a while helps too. It kind of gets you used to that without the feeling of getting too lost, because you're only one fret away from that. Good question. Okay. For those of you who want to come in the back end, feel free. There's a link for those who just joined. You can ask your questions on the chat or come live and talk to me. That's great too. I know I missed some. That's where I need a moderator. Next time I will have someone who can ask. Okay, Oscar has a good question. How do you know that you've been with a teacher too long? Such a good question. Does anyone have anything to say about that? I have a few things, but if someone has something to say about that, that's great. I think, oh, and you know what? I can actually put this on the screen so people can see it, but I lost it. Okay, here it is. Okay, Oscar, this is your question. How do you know you've been with a teacher too long? Is it better to find another with a fresh perspective, or just start watching more videos and online courses now that I understand more? I think it depends on your feeling with the teacher. The fact that you're asking might mean that maybe you just take a break from whoever teacher you're working with, and maybe you just don't take lessons at all for a little while, and just take time just asking yourself the questions and thinking about, okay, what is really getting me stuck? And also asking the question, is that teacher teaching me stuff that, yeah, it's good, but do I really need to learn that now? Maybe not. It depends. And that's the thing with guitar. So many students, me included, because I'm just with you guys, I'm a student too. We're so conditioned in education to have things step by step in school. First, you learn how to add 2 and 2, then you add, subtraction and all this. Very gradual, which is important in those topics, but anything that has to do with art, there's so many paths to, and we all know that we're never gonna know it all because it keeps evolving, right? It's like a language, ideas and things like that. So we know that. So let's just work on the things that are important for each and one of us. But Oscar, that's a good question. I'm not sure if anyone else has any ideas on that, but I would say maybe just take a break to figure things out. I'm curious to know why you're asking the question. All right, Mark, Mark has a question on the 3-day challenge. So for those of you who don't know, the 3-day challenge is a free, I'll leave it in the the description later on, but it's a free 3-day little challenge. The whole point of the challenge, and I think that's where some people got confused, the whole point was to anticipate the sound of a note you're playing. And I think you may have missed the point, not because of not your fault, my fault. I don't think I did a good job explaining. Well, you know what? I don't even know if I should have taken that question, because that's all I have to say about it. I didn't do a very good job explaining it, but I'll send you an email. How's that? And I'll explain to you. Okay. Robert has a good question. Robert, thanks for stopping by. So Robert is struggling with following the chord changes when playing lead. Can't seem to focus on both. How do I improve? It's a very common thing, and I go back and forth between being lost and not really knowing what chord I'm on, or being more aware of the chord. And I think it has to do with two different ways of improvising. That's one of those words I don't know how to pronounce, but you know what I'm trying to say. Improvising? No, it doesn't sound like. Improviser is the French word, but you get it. So there are two ways of playing lead for me. There's the kind of automatic way, which a lot of students that I've met, and me too, have struggled with that, where we have the pattern, we're comfortable with the patterns, which is good, and then we trust the pattern, which we should trust, and then we kind of let our fingers go with the pattern, and we're not really actively involved in the music. We just trust the movements, and we're kind of enjoying whatever note the fingers are hitting, because we know that it's going to work. So that results usually in more of a passive approach, where you disengaged, you know it'll work, and that's okay every once in a while. So here's an example. Here's a backing track. So I'm in A Dorian, okay? So I trust the pattern. I don't know the chords I'm playing with, because it's just automatic. Or even minor pentatonic scale, we would do that. And that's fine, but the other way is to be super aware of each chord and target the notes of the chords. That's a lot more involved mentally, right? And therefore, the playing is going to be reflected by that, because you need to be super aware of every note you're playing. That demands a lot of concentration. So your playing is going to be a little slower, probably. And I like to see it as, it's kind of like I mentioned that on the channel before, you got like two cups. On one cup, you have the automatic type of playing, very passive, you trust the fingers and you're fine, but it's very passive. The other cup is for the more focused playing, where you're really targeting the notes of every single chord that happens. Both types of cups are important. If I were to only play and use the juice in that super targeted cup, where I'm focusing on every single chord, targeting the chords and being aware of that, at the end of the 2-3 minute improv that I'm going to do, I'm going to be fried and my mental concentration is done. So if I have a few songs to play, the last few songs are going to be pretty bad. So I need to find a way to kind of recharge my brain as I'm playing, so it's continually refilling its capacity to concentrate. And that's where the other cup comes in. So I think what I would do, Robert, instead of being too hard on yourself, thinking, oh, I can't focus on every single chord, just every once in a while, when you're practicing, maybe not when you're playing live, but when you're practicing on your own at home, just decide, okay, I'm gonna work 2-3 minutes on targeting the notes of the chords. So know the chords that you're gonna play over, and try to be very, just a few notes, play very slowly, and then try to, every once in a while, target these notes. Once you feel that, okay, it's too hard, concentration-wise, which is totally fine. Then go back to the automatic playing and eventually try to bounce off of each other. Once you start feeling the signals in your mind that, okay, I'm kind of losing concentration here, I'm going to make mistakes, then rest a little bit, your mind, and go back to the automatic where my mind is completely disengaged. I'm relying on the legs. You're kind of recharging yourself, and then go back to that kind of playing. And eventually, if you do it well, it's a pretty smooth transition between both. I'm going to try to show you what it sounds like. I'll try to see if you recognize what I'm doing. Is it this cup or this one? I'll start with this one, which is maybe more targeted towards the chord changes. So I know, okay, the next chord is coming, so I'm gonna. Here's the next chord. All right, I'm starting to get a little tired, so. Okay, now I'm resting my mind. I'm gonna try to go back. So now I'm focusing on the chord tones. Recharge it a little bit. Another breath, and then target the notes. Focusing on the chord tones, and I'll try to go outside. Now I'm not engaged anymore, it's automatic. So it's kind of like you keep filling and emptying these cups, like a juggling thing. So that's what I would do. I hope it helps, Robert, but you're not alone at all. All right, I see Richard in the room. Hey, Richard. The Richard. If you want to come say hi, Richard, you're welcome to. There's a link. Just click on it and I'll have you on. Okay, next question. Here's one, more technical, a little bit more technical here. I have a question about legato, hammer-ons, pull-offs across the fretboard, like Randy Rhoads and other guys. So the only tip that I would have is on the pull-off, because that was something that was kind of difficult for me. I think the pull-off is more difficult than the hammer-on, and I'm sorry, you might know this. This might be too basic. I have no idea, but the pull-off, I would say, for me, for a long time, I thought the pull-off was an exact opposite of the hammer-on, where you're just lifting, but it's not. It's more of a pluck-off. Should call it a pluck-off, where your fingers, instead of just lifting off of the fretboard, where it's just I'll put some volume on. Instead of just lifting off the fretboard, well, you're not getting the sound of the notes below, right? And so I used to do something like that, and it was just not working. So it's more of a pluck off, where each finger is acting like a little pick. So I'm kind of like plucking the string. So it's not a straight movement up, it's a movement across the string, plucking it. So I think that would be beneficial, might be beneficial, but I haven't worked on those techniques exclusively for a long time. I should, but just because of lack of time, like I was saying at the beginning of the stream. But hopefully that helps. But that's a good question too. Okay, let's see what else we have. Lots of good comments. Lots of people helping each other in the chat too. Sorry, I'm scrolling down. The replay, I'll go back. The replay will be available after, but I will go back and I'll cut out all those kind of transitions when I'm trying to figure things out. Oh, okay, here's one. Okay, Frank, I'm going to post your question. It's a good one. Frank is struggling playing lead or melody on the guitar and singing at the same time. My advice would be, and I don't do it, but I know what I should do. But my advice would be to really think about the process first in your mind before you do it. I think a lot of the blockage that we might have is a mental blockage. So this is kind of like doing two things at once, multitasking. And I think you got to get to a point where you can do either of those things without thinking of the other, so that when you're doing it, your brain can switch between, okay, I'm singing here or I'm playing here. And it kind of like switches off between those two focuses, so that when you feel that you need more focus on one area, as you can switch off like that. So what I would do is, before doing anything at the same time, just focus on one of those. So maybe the chords, let's say, or no, you're playing melody and singing at the same time. So find a melody that you like, for example. Get to a point where you can do it without thinking about it. And then imagine, put all your mental focus on the thing you want to sing. For example. Just really focus on one thing. And if maybe playing guitar is the one thing you focus. So you get the melodic line that you're singing automatic, out of the way. But I think just really thinking about those things first before doing it might be a good thing. Just splitting your attention exclusively towards one of those things. I feel that was not very good advice. I'm sorry. I'm not an expert in that, but that's what I would do. All right. So some questions about open tunings. If I use them, I don't use them enough, but I really like doing it because it kind of helps me. It gets me back in the shoes of a beginner in a way where I can't rely on the automatic things that I do. So I like doing that because it forces me to explore new things. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. How would you learn differently today as compared to when you were younger? It's a good one. So I don't know that I have the answer, but it's a good one. I guess it goes along the lines of, what would I do differently? This is not in an arrogant way, but I wouldn't change anything. Not because it was awesome, but I just really enjoyed the whole process. So I really wouldn't change anything. Of course, now there's YouTube, and I know that a lot of you guys did not have YouTube when you started. You're just like me. So I remember getting a lot of stuff from magazines at the time. And then I remember going to the library too, to try to understand scales and things like that. But I didn't. But I thought it was cool to go work on my music at the library when I was in my early 20s. But I don't think I would change anything, honestly. I think I would probably maybe not spend so much time on theory like I did, try to understand it all. I think it's important, but I think there was a time in my early 20s when I approached it the wrong way, where I tried to memorize everything I could. And I thought that I needed to do that every successful musician, in order to be a good musician, you needed to know everything about music. And I realized that it's not true. And the theory concepts that I know are the ones that, the best ones are the ones that I learned because I had a problem. So there was always a reason for trying to understand something instead of just learning for the sake of learning it. So I don't remember the exact details, but I do remember that I was a big Steve Vai fan when I was in my early 20s, and those are the times when I spent the most time on like guitar, completely absorbed with it. And there was this one song, I can't remember the name, but at some point, Steve was doing this one note, and the note sounded just really, really cool, different. And that opened the door of the idea of how come, I've heard this note before, but it didn't sound as cool as it does now. So what makes this note sound so cool? And that kind of opened the door of me understanding that a note can have a lot of different meanings depending on what it's being played over. And so that was the problem I had. How can I extract all the coolness of that particular note? And so that's where I learned about intervals, and that was one little theory concept that came out of a question that I had, and that resonated with me a lot more than when I was in school. I went to music school for a year, and I learned all this theory and all of that because we had to, but I don't remember any of that. The only things I remember are the things that came because of a necessity or answering very particular questions I had. But overall, just enjoying the whole process. It's a good question. Beer Hounds, that's great. Been playing for years, finally got the E chord down. That's good. I think it's great. You should celebrate the victory. There's no, it's not a small thing at all. It's great. And then keeping exploring too is one thing that I would suggest to all of us. Just keep exploring. Don't just learn for the sake of learning. Just keep exploring. Back to the opening of this stream, when I was just playing a chord, I love just placing my fingers on the fretboard, using a few open strings because I like that, and then just playing it. And then, okay, I don't like this. Well, I'm sure that if I can move these fingers somehow, each of them, one fret higher or lower. Okay, I don't like this, maybe. I don't like that sound, so let's see. Maybe this, yeah? Yeah? No, now it's nice. Okay, I like that. That just came out of me just, boom, doing something on the fret. Okay, no. Oh, okay. I just moved one finger. I like that. I don't know what it is, but that opens a little door. Okay, what is this? And then I can analyze the notes, see if maybe I recognize this within a scale. And then trying to make music. Maybe I can move this. No? Yeah? I still don't know what it is, but I'm starting to make music. So keeping always that door of exploration open, you're gonna discover cool things like that. So for anyone learning, I'd really encourage to do that. Keep doing that. I suggest you guys look at the comments. There's some good ones about switching pickups and all that. All right, here's one. Albert, Been playing guitar for over 10 years and still struggling with picking, especially picking from string to string. Tried many ways to hold the pick, still struggling. So yeah, I completely relate. I struggled with that. I've been playing for about, I don't remember, 30 years. And for 25 years I struggled, and I still do, until finally I decided, okay, alternate picking is just not for me. And that's okay. And plus I realized that I don't like the sound that much. I do it in other people, but when I do it, I don't. And so I found that for me, economy picking was the way to go, which is kind of like alternate picking and sweeping. All that to say that maybe you're focusing too much on a technique that is not for you. That's fine. That's okay. But I remember a long time just trying different methods of holding the pick. For a long time, I had a closed fist like this, and I thought it was working because, sorry, I'm doing the focus. I thought this was working for a while, but it wasn't. It's just that I got comfortable playing it like that. That created problems. The way that I hold the pick is between the thumb here and the index, just like this. My index is kind of curved this way. And then the pointy part of that bone is kind of like, the pick is kind of an extension of that, like this. And that's how I hold it. But that's not the way to hold it. That's what worked for me, but has anyone been able to become a good picker and have that problem? If so, I'd love to hear some tips. Just come on over and take the lead and tell us, because I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you're not alone with that. I'm trying to think if Richard, are you still there? Jesse, his real name is Jesse. If Jesse's here, he's a good picker. Maybe you can come over and talk to us about it. I guess bottom line is we're all in the same boat, and there's no teacher that is going to make you play better. It's really just taking a real analytical look at what you're doing and asking the right questions and being aware that there's no one way fits all. That's the big one. Okay, Jeb, you ready? I see Jeb in the back. Did you have a question? Give me a thumbs up if you do. Question on intervals. I'll wait for your thumbs up before I have you on, okay? Oh, in live chat, maybe you meant that you typed it. If so, that's okay. I can look for it too. Uh-oh, I lost him. Okay, that's okay. I'll come back. William mentions the textured things. Yeah, that's the mummy pick from V-Pick. That's why I love them so much too. They really help they really help with that. So that helps. Jeb, I didn't mean to put your comment on there, but I randomly clicked and it's you, so that's a good one. First SGT, thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. That means a lot. I'll get a drink. Thank you. Jeb, did you want to come ask your questions? Your question? Okay, cool. Hey, man.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Dave. Man.
Good to see you.
You too.
Thank you for being the first one on here.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, go for it.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a weird question, but when I start to record, let me grab a headset so this isn't echoing.
Okay.
Pulling the chords, and I jump, say, from one chord to the other, and I go the. That's not working. Sorry. That didn't.
No, you're good. I heard so far. It was a little fizzly, but I hear.
Yeah, I think it's the headset. Okay. I noticed that the fifth, like the scale associated with the fifth, has a different set. So, like when I'm playing, say, over, I go from E, and then I go to B. That's what I usually do. But if I followed the E minor pattern, I'd be going. Which do I use? Do I switch to like the B minor scale, or do I stay in the E minor scale, in the E minor shape? If that
Kind of. I think it depends on the chords you're playing over, though.
okay,
Right?
well, I'm playing over E minor, then I play over B minor. So if I'm playing over E minor, I'm like, and then when I switch to B minor, but if I were to follow the E minor, because I see the neck kind of is the grid. So if I were to do it by the grid, I would be like. But then it sounds kind of melodic, and it's one of those stupid questions that just confuses the heck out of it.
Yeah. So okay, I'm gonna mute you just for a second for the echo. I think I get it. I think the way you're doing it is completely fine as far as your theory is right. You got your theory right with the intervals and stuff like that. If your question is more on should I do it or should I not do it? Does it sound good or not? I can't tell you that it sounds good or bad because that's just too personal. But what I would tend to do is your first few notes that you used, was it something like that-ish? Over the E, right? And then you have a B minor maybe? Na-da-pa-pa-pa. Right? Okay. So, oops, sorry. I think, now that I have the notes, can you rephrase? I think I get it, but I want to make sure.
Yeah, it's just, I'm using the first, second, third, fifth of the E minor scale to go over the E minor chord. And then I'm switching to the first, second, third, fifth of the B minor chord. But the second is different on B minor. It's right next to the root. If I'm using B minor scale. If I'm using B minor grid, I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it does. I think you're using the same exact intervals for both. You're using 1, 2, flat 3 on the E minor and 1, 2, flat 3 on the B, right?
Right.
Let me share my screen really quick. We're gonna do it on paper. I think it'll help us.
Cool.
I'm gonna use neck diagrams here. Okay, so let me clean this up real quick. All right, so we got two scales two two fretboards for both chords, okay? So the first one we had an E minor, and on that E minor, what you were playing were these notes, I think, right? Na ba 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 bum. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to add another note just so that we can see where the root is. This is going to be considered the root. That's the E, and I'll say that that's the root, and that's going to show us what intervals we're actually using on the whole thing. So I'll just change this real quick. Okay. So we're using 1, 2, flat 3, right?
Correct.
We're doing the same exact thing when you switch chords. The only difference, though, is that now we switch chords, so the root is no longer E, it's B, so we've got a B right here. I'm going to say that this is the root, and then you're playing these notes.
Right.
Okay, cool. So those are the same exact intervals that you're using. Again, I'm going to switch this to show the intervals. Okay, now that we have the visuals, I think if you explain your question, it's going to make more sense.
Okay. That's what I usually do. But I noticed that if I were to follow the like if I were to do everything in the E minor matrix or graph, call it, then B, the root, and second would be right next to each other. And it sounds weird. So I tend to do it like that.
Like this?
Right. But I guess my question is, could I do the other? And what in what situation can I do the other?
Yeah, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I add those 3 notes that you played on B on this diagram right here, so it'll be these, right?
Right.
What you're saying is that in E minor, this note would be here.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Okay, so yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's because those two chords that you're referring to, E minor and B minor, those 2 chords are actually not an E minor, as in A Aeolian, or sorry, E Aeolian. They're not.
Right.
It's E Dorian.
Okay.
Because if I take, this is what I usually do when I've got a series of chords I'm kind of confused about. What I'll do is map out on the fretboard those 2 chords. So in any position. So for example, we've got, let's say we're using this E minor right here, the bar chord version of E minor, right? And then we have a B minor. So I'm going to write B minor. I'll just use the bar position right here, okay? So we got 2 superimposed chords, E minor on the right, B minor on the left. If you know enough chord positions, I would recommend you bring this B minor in the same zone of the fretboard as E minor.
Okay.
But if you don't, that's okay, because we can use this software, and by doing this, I'll tell that we're in E tonality, for example. So I'll say that this note is the root. And when I do this, it lists all the possible intervals from both chords, but they're all in relation to that key, which is E, right?
Right.
And if I do this and I bring them all to the same kind of like zone of the fretboard so that you can recognize a scale, we've got a 1 here, we've got a 2. So that 2 is going to be moved here, right? Not here because it's not the same 2, right here. Flat 3, we have a flat 3 here, and I can move it here, same one. Do we have a 4 here? Nope, there's no 4, so we're going to leave it like it is. No 4. No indication as to what 4 we're going to use. We've got a 5. Okay, it's right here. Do we have a 6? We don't. Okay, now I know exactly what you're talking about. I missed that part. We don't have a 6. We have a 7, a flat 7. So basically what I did here, I combined both chords together, and from the information that I got from extracting each notes from both chords, this is what I get. It tells me that the scale that we're basing these two chords on has a 1, 2, flat 3, 5, flat 7. So that's going to work, right? If you improvise or creating a little melody like you did, you could pick from any of these notes, you'd be safe, right?
Right.
So 1, 2, flat 3, 5, flat 7. 1, 2, flat 3, 5, flat 7. 1, 2, flat 3. This is one of the positions you could use. The theme that you had the na da ba da ba, the 1, 2, 3, flat 3, 1, 2, that. And then you had a 5, which is good. You had a 6. There's no indication of a 6 in here. So can you use this 6? Yeah, definitely, you can.
Okay.
Can you use the other 6? Yeah, you can too. Which it says it's a sharp 5. It's not. It's a flat 6, right? Right here. So you can use both. The one you had, that's with the major sixth. Could you use with a flat 6? Yeah, definitely. But you said you don't like it. That's okay. That means that, okay, you're just going to use Dorian for this, which is with the sharp 6. To my ear, I liked what you did better too, with the major 6th. But that doesn't mean that it's right, that it's the best. Just me, that's what I like, and you do too, so that's great.
Yeah.
So I think it's, sorry, I had to wrap it out to understand, but I think it's just a matter of, well, yeah, your ear is more tuned to this kind of sound, and that's what you like, and that's great. The other one was not a mistake at all, the flat 6. It just doesn't sound good to you and I, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but
yeah,
it just sounds weird.
I agree. I don't like that sound that much, but it's a total valid option. But I'm with you. So I think the bottom line is whenever you're dealing with different chords like this, mapping it out on paper is the best, even more than a software, because you're engaged in the process. And then you'll see theory just kind of gets clear in your mind. Even if you don't have the names for it, it doesn't matter, because it's a perfect match. And whatever is not given to you by the chords, that's your choice. You pick whatever you want. If there's an interval that's missing, it's up to you to use a major or diminished or whatever, as long as it's not there. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
All right, take care, man.
You-
All right, who's next? This is great. Good question, Jeb. So Jeb opened the door for everyone else to come on now. Hey, Ryan. Ryan's here. You want to hop on and say hello? I see a lot of friends in the chat. It's great. Okay, what did I miss? Okay, here's one. We can talk about this a little bit. How do you fit licks into improvising? Can someone come on and tell me how you say that word? Improvising over different tempos. So that's a loaded question. Man, it's a good one too. I'll start by saying that let me take you back to 1990. No, I'm doing it like the videos. But I remember when I started, I thought, okay, in order to play lead guitar, in order to play solos, I need to memorize all these licks and then fit these licks to chords, and then it's going to work. It's going to be great. But the problem is, I would learn 5 licks and then start learning the 6th, and I had to make room for that 6th, so I had to forget one, and I just could not keep up. So what I would say is, I would suggest, try not to think about licks when you improvise. You're automatically going to have licks. As you're playing, there's some finger movements that you're going to gravitate around and you're going to always kind of do them. But instead of thinking of licks, what I would really suggest you do, and that's one thing I would have changed a long time ago, because I think I wasted a few decades not doing it. But I would really suggest you take a backing track or a chord or something like that, and just don't touch your guitar, because you're going to be tempted to place your fingers around a pentatonic scale, and you're going to start going back to that. Your fingers are going to take over. So really try not to play at all, and then listen to a backing track or a chord or something, and then play that and sing something over it, and then see what comes out. And then once you have something, try to replicate it on the guitar. And I promise that that's the best way to come up with new ideas. And what you're doing is learning subconsciously how to translate what you are creating in your mind through your fingers. You're learning which movements are going to create these sounds. And it works without even thinking about it. So it starts with a backing track that you listen to. I don't have my guitar. Try to imagine something. So let the chords play a little bit so you get used to them. Okay. I like that. It's different than something like, right? The licks. Okay. Remember the first thing I said in the chat, if you were not there, but basically, here's something, imagine a line, na-da-ba-bam. Oh, two similar notes, da-da-da-bam. That gives me clues as to what kind of thing I'm going to play. I know that at some point, the first note, 1, 2, 3, 4, are going to be the same exact frets and all that. Then figure it out, na-da-ba-ba. Okay, that's it. And then you play it. Not licks. Eventually, so by doing this, I'm associating pitches with fret position, string position, movements. And the more you do that, the more instinctively you're going to play. It's more of a primal way of playing. Instead of going back to things you've played before, you're making it up on the spot. That's the best way. So that's what I would do. And you could start with something, this exercise really helped me, where you've got your thing going on. Just 3 notes. Na da da, da da da. Figure out these notes. Da da da. Okay. 3rd string frets 9, 11, 12. So 9, 11, 12. I'm picturing that in my mind. Da ba bum. Where is that? Just said it. 3rd string. Na da dum. 9, 11, 12. 9, 11, 12. Can you picture it? Da da da. Yep. 9, 11, 12. Out of that, can I make something else? Ba ba ba. How about da da da? How would you play that? Started with 9, 11, 12. It's 12, 11, 9. Oh, I could play that. I didn't have to try. What about na ba bum? Think about it. It started with 9, 11, 12. And I want da da bum. Yeah, 11, 12, 9. You build on that. You sing it. La da da bum. Yeah. La da. So that's what I'd suggest you do instead of thinking of licks and stuff like that. Just start with just a few notes, you know where they're played, and then expand, and then take a chance. Okay, na-da-bum. You know how to play that now, right? Da-da-dum. Yeah, you do. 9, 11, 12. How about na-da-bum, tum? Okay, that's higher. Na-da-ba-bum. I don't know exactly where to play that, but I'm just gonna take a chance, and it's a calculated risk because I know it's gonna be higher. So I'll try. Na-da-ba-bum. I got lucky, but it wasn't perfect. If we rewind, it was something like, I had to bend to make it right. But it was still in the right direction. It wasn't, no, it was. So force yourself to just close your eyes. Throw in a backing track. Imagine. I had to fix it to reach that, but taking chances, you'll be surprised, I think, if you try that. But that would be my advice. Okay, very good questions. We are getting close to the end. It's been about an hour, but I've really enjoyed the interactions, the questions, and all that. I'll still take a few, so if you have some, feel free. Sorry, I'm just going over, making sure that I'm not missing anything. Gary, I do not have any country playing courses, but I love country playing, the good kind, but I don't. It would be a scam if I did. All right, looks like I covered pretty much everything, so thanks so much, everyone. Frank, thank you for asking. My dad's doing good. Doing much better. My dad was a little sick, but he's good now. All right, here's my last question. I think it might be relevant. Hank is asking this. I feel like I know my scales, pentas and modes really well, but my solos sound boring. Your solos sound so melodic. Where do I go from there? So exactly like I showed you, Hank, that applies to that too. I think the reason your solos sound boring is because your solos are probably influenced too much by your finger comfort, going to the same patterns and the licks and things like that. And I think you might be spending too much time on the guitar, actually, because the more we hold this, the more we think like guitar players. And so I'm going to prescribe to you, next time you practice, whatever amount of time you have, even if you just have 5 minutes, just spend your 5 minutes doing that, just putting your guitar down, literally down. It's so important because now I'm no longer thinking like a guitar player, and just sing something, even if you don't have a backing track. Just sing something in your mind and try to make it melodic. Try to imagine what you want it to sound like. Okay, that came. If you have a backing track, it's better because it's going to match what you're singing is going to match that. But okay, that's cool. And try to play it and try to match the emotion and what you heard in your head. But that would be my suggestion. I think that's all that's missing. I think you might be too you're thinking like a guitar player too much, maybe. So yeah, just don't play with your guitar for a little while. I think that'll help. Everyone, thank you so much. This was great. Really appreciate everyone, and I love that that everybody is so encouraging in the chat, and there's no negativity. That's what I love so much about all of you. So thank you so much for all that. And if I missed any questions, I'll try to go to do a pass, and I know I missed some. I'll do a pass in the chat, and I'll try to answer them. And I'll have another one coming soon. But in the meantime, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for those of you who joined me in the back end too. Jeb, thanks for coming on camera. It was great. I see Carlos. Thanks for being here. Rafael, Stefan is in the back. Thank you, Stefan. Thanks, Pete, for being here too. And if you need anything, you know where to find me. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. One's compliment, thank you for the super chat. That is so nice of you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You didn't have to do that, but thank you. Everyone, take care. I can't wait to see you again. And I'm going to go pick up the kids from school. Take care, everyone. Talk to you soon.